So we're just take a moment right now.
Spread the love.
Spread the love.
Kind of share the link. I can't find it.
Hasn't come up yet.
Oh. Sorry, people. Technicalities.
No problem. It's all happening. We are Jaishree and Kalani, and we are Katherine Glass and Jonathan Glass, and we're going live, and we're just sharing it on our Jaishree Yoga page, on Healing Essence Center, and Katherine Glass, Jonathan Glass. So many pages to share. So many pages.
Yeah. Obnoxious for the people watching. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's go. Let's do this thing.
No problem. No problem. Everyone take a sip of their vitamin water or their tea.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, are we good?
We're good.
Good enough.
Good enough?
Good enough. Yeah.
All right. Let's get some FaceTime. Welcome everybody. Welcome Kumudini, aka Katherine Glass, and welcome Nimai Chaitanya, aka Jonathan Glass. Thank you everybody for being here. We're so grateful, and we are really feeling the humility and the gratitude and the joy of being in Sangha, in association right now with these two beautiful people. Kalani Das and I are absolutely just awe-inspired by your friendship and you both as teachers. And today we're talking to Katherine Glass, who I'm not supposed to say is America's #1 psychic because apparently that's not exactly correct. She's the world's #1 psychic! She's the world!
And my friend and I have a joke. I always say, I'm the chosen one. And she says, yes, you are. We have this big laugh about it. Harry Potter being the chosen one. So that's Best American Psychics is an organization that I am one of their members. And 2 years, 2013 and 2019, I was awarded Psychic of the Year for Best American Psychics.
Excellent.
There are lots of wonderful psychics in America.
Yes, there are. That is actually something we are going to be able to tap into today.
I personally know several of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Katherine, we're talking today because you're not only an amazing tapped-in psychic, you are a mother, you are a wife, you are a healer, and you are a devotee. And I would love to actually get into that today, a little bit of a conversation regarding how it is that you're able to, or your process of connecting to being not only a devotee of various teachers and spiritual practice and guru and God and God's many, many forms, but how you connect this 3D realm, which is a big conversation of what we're really dealing with right now with the pandemic and all the things that are happening in this unprecedented time that no one would actually guess we would see, except maybe the psychics. And how we meld that 3D world into a 4D world, which is to say a mixing of going towards the other realms while you're still in the material world, but really living often in that 5D, 6D, 7D.
Cool. Okay.
You can start wherever you want to start, and I can ask you.
Okay, there's so much to share. So first of all, I'm going to start with this little story. It's just interesting, and we're waiting and watching, and who knows. But so I'm a channel, and I channel lots of dimensions. I can channel loved ones who have crossed over into one realm of the astral plane, and I also channel higher beings or beings that are on a different level of the astral plane, such as angels, spirit guides, divine, master teachers, things like this, Metatron, some of you may have heard of, and various beings. I do have a personal guide that I believe is from a Galactic Federation and the Council of Light, and she, although I call them they because they feel rather androgynous, call themselves Ezra. And I've done a lot of channeling with that, but that developed later in my life. When I was 26, and actually the year I met Jonathan, I took a seminar, and it was this far out personal growth thing, and I did it, and there was some exercise going on that we were doing, and I had never consciously channeled yet before. And I went into a spontaneous state of consciousness, let's say, during this exercise. We happened to be on a floor, the lights were dim, and my head started rolling back and forth. And I saw these very tall beings of gorgeous light. They were like blue and gold and beautiful. And I was very comforted by their presence. And I was rolling my head back and forth, and I started talking, and he's saying what I was hearing them say. And the man who was leading the workshop, he was a psychiatrist, actually. He was leading this group growth thing. And he said, what are they saying? And he said, so he started asking questions. And the only question I remember from this whole thing is, he said, when will there be world peace? And I was like, I remember being in this foggy fog, and I just said 2021. And I've always remembered that. And here we are at 2020 in the middle of a pandemic with a lot of background noise around what is happening, a lot of theories about what's going on here on multi-levels of awareness reality, right? What's being presented to us, what's behind the scenes, what's behind the scenes, possibly. So Jonathan, kind of keeps nudging me and saying, hey, maybe you're going to be right. Maybe world peace, maybe we'll have this utopian 5D reality. There are lots of theories out there in the channel circles about a new earth, and that earth is accessible by raising your vibration, your frequency, your consciousness. And so some people will be in a different reality and living on one earth, and others will be in a different level of consciousness or dimension in their beingness, and that would be the other earth. It's not actually two separate balls. I don't believe it's a state of being. Just like your loved ones who have crossed over from the physical body, they're right here, but they're in a different dimension. It's a dimension shift. So it's similar to that.
Beautiful.
And yeah. I don't know if you answered the question you asked, but it's
well, I am not a professional question asker, so that might be a hard road to hoe anyway. No, that's beautiful. So it makes me it begs the question for those who are listening that are, first of all, what I hear you saying is everyone is kind of living in this dimension, and there are different realms of connection we can make here in what's going on now, and
connect outward. Like I think part of your question in the opening was, there are multiple places we can connect to from where we are. Was it something like that about divine masters, God consciousness, the creation, our higher selves, spirit guides, all of that? And absolutely 100%. Yes, we are designed with the anatomy to do that. Every being.
Tell us more about that.
It's a matter of being interested in finding about that anatomy that you have. And
yes,
I was born into a family with parents that were naturally already at that place in their soul's level of evolution, let's call it. And so I was raised in a family that spoke about this stuff, or studied it, or practiced it, or had books laying around about it everywhere. So I personally believe my soul chose that family to help make my work be what it needs to be in this life.
Tell me about some of the experiences you had as a child, because I'm sure there are people listening, especially right now and what's going on, that are tapping in. This is an awakening, right? And so a lot of folks, tell us about maybe both what supported you as a child and what experiences you had, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about why there's so much resistance to talking about these subjects.
Okay. The things that supported me as a child was a mom that was and a grandmother who raised that mom in a very open way spiritually. My grandparents were theosophists and transcendentalists, truth seekers, and I'm a cousin of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was a transcendentalist. So I come from a long line of truth seekers, and that environment was all around me growing up. There were tarot cards and astrology books and Ouija boards, and so interesting, the way souls join in a lifetime. My brother at 13 became a born-again Christian, and he, there was a big clash about occultism and this is dangerous, but at the same time, his soul was really advanced in a lot of ways. I do believe that he had a mental illness, and all of that was a problem for him, but he was a deep soul, and we would have these amazing philosophical discussions, because my mom used to say, paths are many, truth is one. Paths are many, truth is one. And my grandparents, the same philosophy. So I grew up with an open-mindedness about my natural intuitive ability. And my mom would say, oh, you're psychic, you know, and I would like predict the outcome of a story she was reading to me pages down the way. And oh, you're psychic. But that's all she'd say. She never made a big deal about it, and she never repressed it. She just let it be there. And I always talk to parents with awake children and say to them, when your child, like my son, Robin, came to me and said when he was 5, Mommy, I was killed. I was a soldier. I'm not going to die this time. You know, and I said, oh, no, honey, not for a long time. This life is different. I just kind of rode with the conversation, and I didn't hyper focus on it, but I didn't shut it down. So it's important to allow our little awake ones to have their say and their reality. And that's what my mom did with me, basically. And she would look at my chart, and when I was 16, she looked at my astrology chart and she said, oh, you're going to become known for something very unusual. And that's kind of what's happening. So, you know, it's interesting. So I was supported is the bottom line. I have colleagues and friends who are mediums and psychics and very gifted who were squashed and told, you're crazy, you can't talk about this in our family. All that from that to you're of the devil. I mean, fortunately, that didn't happen to me. Even with my born again Christian brother, we found peace, and I have a deep relationship with Christ myself, with Jesus. So, you know, because I'm aware of there are many paths and one truth. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, you bring up some really important topics. The children right now, all the children coming in, they say are awake. We know our Narayani is, and we all knew that, and we all
rainbows, crystals, indigos. They have labels for them, but
yeah. And we're
a lot of them are being diagnosed as autistic, but they're not necessarily autistic. They see and receive information differently, and they're going to be leading and teaching this new dimension we're moving into. They're going to be teaching the world about that, how to perceive information rather than just with our 5 physical senses. That's one of their purposes.
So great that you say that, because we know our Kalanity, his secret job as CEO of a company building for children on the autism spectrum. It's like,
oh, I'm getting waves of chills. You see, there are always beings around guiding everything that's going on. So the guides brought that thread together for this presentation. There's no accidents.
Right? Amazing. Yeah. Beautiful. So, you know, so the other part of my question, I guess, is partially what you probably get asked a lot in your guidance and in sessions, but how would you support those, which are many right now, who are, you know, from one spectrum, it's called red pilling or awakening people to what's been going on, which a lot of people feel everyone's going to get awoken to at some point, versus just the folks who are like the black sheep of their family, the people who are the woo-woo, and get, you know, squashed. How can we support and advise everyone on the planet right now in their awakening and sharing that with those who are coming up against it in a harder way?
Okay. So the black sheep, when you're considered the black sheep of the family, often your role is to end family karma. And it's not an easy role, and it's usually not for a younger soul, a soul that hasn't had as much life experiences on the repeated cycle of birth and death. So your work, your soul's mission is to bring awareness and awakening and healing to your family. And that may be very painful at times on the personal human ego level, feeling rejected, feeling misunderstood, feeling alone. For those people that are considered the black sheep, if you are ostracized from your family or actually exiled, I would say to you, accept the situation to the degree that feels true for you, or keep going back in and just loving more. Because your job is to kind of the way Christ was, you know, I'm not saying they are Christ, but to love in the face of persecution. And everyone has their role, everyone has their gift and their unique presence to share in this planet, or you wouldn't be here. And I don't believe that it's an accident that anyone is born or conceived here. And I just know that in my being. I can't give you a textbook explanation of why that is so. This soul here knows it's so. That's the best I can give you. And I trust that deeply. So whatever journey these people have that are the awakeners, the red pill awakeners or the black sheep, as you said, they must stay connected to their inner being while they're embodied in the human earth suit. And that is a job in and of itself, because once we get here and we incarnate, we kind of agree to forget a lot, because we need to show up for the day-to-day reality of the human experience. And if we knew everything, we may not do that unless you are a completely awake being, like some of the master teachers who have walked this earth.
Amen. Beautiful. So to bring it to you two, to this lovely, my brother here next to you, my brother from another mother. You know, it's my sister-in-law Kathleen's birthday today, and I'm thinking of my brother, and also just, I mean, when Nimai and I met, which was right before, the second before we met and all that, we just knew it was like, you know, there's so many lifetimes of people coming in, right? And I have so many compliments for you, Kumu, because one of the first stories I ever heard about you was just the way you were handling something happening in your house where there were a lot of people coming in and you were having a hard time, and you just said something like that someone took offense to, and I just was laughing so hard because the honesty and the authenticity and mixed with the sweetness in you is like unparalleled, right? And then you two together are this wonderful team. My question for you is, I guess for both of you, but for you first. So Jonathan. Oh, you first.
Okay.
So you're both devotees of God and of the divine. And, you know, when you walk into your home, it's angels and fairies and twinkles and Jesus and Amma and everybody. And then you've got Jonathan Prabhu, who is, you know, Srila Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, Vaishnav, Dharma, like kind of like keeping that going. And the connection and the mixture is amazing and necessary. How do you guys, I mean, we've heard many stories, but maybe share a little stories about how you guys have worked that for the past 26, 7, 8 years in your path, because you always hearing, seeing, and feeling that which could not be seen, heard, and felt, you know, and him bringing it back to Siddhanta and what we call Vaidhi Bhakti and rules and regulations. I mean, how has that worked for you guys? And
well, it's actually not as much of a divide as you would think. When we first met, it was just crazy. I mean, our first date, he walked into my apartment and he looked at my bookshelf, and there was Prabhupada's book, paperback, Your Ever Well Wisher, on my shelf. And I hadn't read it. I had had it since I was 18. I was attracted to the cover. I just never read it. I had read Shirley MacLaine's book, you know, Out on a Limb, because again, you're right. I come from that orientation. Paths are many, truth is one, spiritual seeker, psychic, medium, healer, all of that psychic stuff. But very open. I had a very open heart and a very open mind, and naturally devotional. Absolutely. Love Jesus, love God, love a personal aspect, feeling of the divine for me. So there was that. Then, you know, my grandmother, who was also the medium that I inherited the abilities, or it's in the family lines a lot. That's very common. She was also a follower of Krishnamurti, who was another Vedantic teacher. And my uncle Emerson, not Ralph Waldo Emerson, but my uncle Emerson, my mother's brother, was a huge Vedanta fanatic and a Christian, so he combined both. And I found out that my grandmother carried a Bhagavad Gita, a baby one, and I somehow inherited it. Yes, and it's a little tiny book, and she carried it with her all the time. And so there was already, karmically speaking, probably from our past lives, a blending of philosophies that was able to work together. And Jonathan, you know, best kept secret, is incredibly mediumistic and very psychic himself. So that was just easy. He used to say, when are you going to become the channeler lady that I know you are? You know, he used to say that when I was like 27. And I was like, I don't know, you know, but it always just flowed with us. And Jonathan was never, ever, not just pedantic, but, you know, lording it over me. He never was like absolute about how things had to be in our spiritual path in our life. And so there was space for us to, and I'm very devotional by nature. I love chanting. I love singing. I love I loved the language. I loved it all. So it was pretty effortless and seamless for us. There were times when I would get rebellious or frustrated with some of the what I call dogmatic language in scriptures. But then when I would actually sit and really receive them, I understood them, and then I could hear that it's actually not so. It's no different than any other high teaching. So that's kind of how it works for us.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So you want to hear what I have to say about all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
Please.
So just got really dark. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I remember that first book. She didn't finish that part of the story where she read that book like in one day.
Yeah, because I was in love with him.
She was in love, so she would
like,
do
"I'll read
anything
this book."
basically. So
The Prabhupada book.
She read the whole book, and then she had a dream of being under a waterfall, and in the dream it said Chaitanya.
Well, Prabhupada was standing in the distance in a ochre red orange robe, really dark reddish orange, and water was pouring down this waterfall, and he was saying Chaitanya, Chaitanya, Chaitanya over and over. I had no idea what that meant. None.
Wow.
So that was confirmation for me. That was enough for me. This blonde-haired, poopy girl was really deep, and
that's awesome.
That was very connected. And then we're driving around in Berkeley, and I put on a tape, a chanting tape, and she's following the words as if she's been chanting forever. Because, you know, sometimes when people hear a mantra, they fumble over it and they have to, how do you say that word? And she's just singing it like she's been doing it her whole life. That was sign number 2.
Okay.
And sign number 3 is that when she would sit on the beach and chant with me and hold my beads with me. So there was many other signs too. So, you know, I think to really cut to the chase, as we both mature, because, you know, at different levels of spirituality and consciousness, and, you know, depending on where you're at and stresses of life or whatever, we can get caught up, especially in partnerships, and wanting the other person to understand and see how we're seeing. You know, I want you to have the same realizations that I'm having, and vice versa. You know, so that has been there to some degree over the years, but part of the purification is really trusting the higher thing and knowing that everybody has their own path. And, you know, because I know her level of sincerity is so strong that I fully trust that she is in the hands of God. And I think she feels the same way for me. So, you know, there can be ins and outs, and there can be different ways of seeing things sometimes, but ultimately there's enough times in the relationship where we have connected very deeply in a spiritual way, so that we know the essence of the truth. So, you know, like when Katherine mentioned that sometimes things would sound dogmatic, but then I would see her settle in and hear from Gurudev in a way that blew her mind completely. And at that moment, she realized, oh, this has nothing to do with dogma, really, because it's coming from love, it's coming from truth. Some of the language maybe is old or ancient or traditional or whatever, but in Bhakti Yoga, it's so far beyond dogma. But people can get caught up in dogma too. It's very easy in this world.
And then I would get confused about, you know, external disciplines. Like, well, I can't do this all the time every day. I'm just not. I'm externally more lazy, but internally I feel like I'm so devoted and connected to God all the time. That's how I feel. And so you can't see the outward signs sometimes of my devotion, you know, but he would explain to me that is the least important part, is the external showings of devotion. It's a practice to keep you aware. But once he said that, I would relax about it and know that every time I do whatever external practice there is, sitting and meditating, offering water, whatever it is, I do it with my whole heart, and I know that it's okay. I believe in a God that loves and accepts exactly where I am. And as long as I'm making effort for myself and for my own relationship and connection to the divine and all the beautiful universal beingness that I love, then how could anything be wrong?
And the other thing, and you know, in our path, that the essential thing is to understand that we're all eternal servants of the divine, right? So that's what we're appreciating. So I'm appreciating in her service of what she's giving people, and I see it every week, how she dramatically and very powerfully touches someone's heart and always elevates that person from one stage of consciousness to another. So that's powerful service.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of, on some level, that's kind of what we knew when we got together, was that, there was a lot of things, having kids, family, so many things, but there was always that underlying thing that we have a purpose here, we have a mission. I mean, I feel that way very strongly, and I by her behavior, by Katherine's behavior, and I know she also feels that way. She's a great mom, and she does all the things she needs to do as a mom, and nothing will stop her from doing that. And at the same time, when she shows up for a healing or a talk or whatever, it still blows my mind by what she's able to do and how she touches people. And that is service. And when we have that mood of how can I be of service, that's ultimately, that puts us immediately in a safe position, because that's who we are by nature.
And when we got married at our wedding ceremony, we had an excerpt from Marianne Williamson's Return to Love, or an excerpt from her book about the Course in Miracles. There's a thing in there about the holy relationship and the special relationship. And the special relationship is two people that deeply love each other, and they're very connected souls, and all the, what they can bring to each other and in a relationship, and it feels so lovely and good, and what a blessing, and that's great, and that's love. But the holy relationship, and this was in our vows that he read to us, for we chose the verse, the couple come together and face outward to the world and bring what comes alive of the two people becoming together is a whole separate entity, and that entity turned toward the world for the service and the betterment of the world is how we modeled our marriage. We wanted that. That's why, it was like, we want a healing center. We want to use our individual karma and dharma, if you will, together for the higher good of the world. And that is the glue, I believe, that holds our marriage together in all the mundane challenges of day-to-day life and relationship in the world. And one last thing I'd say is my father Conrad, he was very intuitive, and he had a form of channeling also that he did. And he, when I asked him, when I first met Jonathan and I showed him the chart, because my father was a master astrologer as well, he said, you guys have the same aim in life on a soul level. If you have the same aim, the higher aim of your soul's mission, you'll make it. And so he approved that one. So that was helpful.
That is beautiful, you guys. Yeah, you are such a divine couple, and we're so grateful to have you in our lives. And so many people, as people are sharing, are grateful. It's real. It's kind of like why we have Prema Bhakti Band and why we're just a bunch of couples doing our best to serve.
Yeah.
It's true, isn't it funny? Yeah,
it's real.
Well, the couple is if we funnel our energies toward the divine, toward something higher. I mean, a lot of people miss out on that. Really beautiful, nice people, but they haven't heard that point, that very, very important point, that if you can offer something higher as a couple, that can create a very strong glue in a relationship. I think a lot of relationships miss that because they don't understand that that's a really important aspect. It's not the only aspect, it's an important thing.
And it may not be every couple's dharma. They may have incredible talents on their own, and they're doing those, and that's great too. One last little thing I want to share. It came to my mind, a funny story. You asked about being my childhood and being, brought up in this family. My mom told a story that I love. I cherish it. She said the night after I was conceived, she said in the morning, she looked up in the corner of the room and she said, now, first of all, my mother always swore she wasn't psychic, but she read tarot cards like unbelievably accurately, to the point where she stopped reading them because she scared herself. But she'd say, oh, no, I'm not psychic. You're psychic. And my mom was psychic. But she saw me the next morning. She said, your head appeared in the corner of the room and you had blonde curls and you were about between 15 and 20, and you had a tinkly laugh and you said, hello, mother. And she said, I knew I was going to have a girl. I knew I had conceived and I was pregnant. And then she called my dad in, and he did a chart, and he said, she's going to be born on April 2nd, which I was. And and she said, I knew you were a high soul because you could manifest your physical form like that. She said this so casually, like, pass me the cookies, you know, and this is who I was raised with. So this was a language that was around me my whole life. And it's the language I have raised my boys with as well. And I don't have an agenda for how they use it. I just am authentically who I am. And that's all any of us can be, right? And for those of you that are afraid to be authentically who you are and are hiding your beliefs, truly your mystical experiences you're having or connections, because I have to tell you, Jai, a lot of people and Kala are waking up. They're having a lot of mystical experiences. I'm getting clients calling me going, why am I seeing shadows in my house? Why am I seeing my dead relatives? Why, you know, what's happening? I'm not a psychic. And so the veil is getting thinner. The vibration is raising on the planet, the frequency. And that's part of the whole awakening that's happening, is we're all waking up and realizing we are so much more than this physical body and what our eyes can see.
Amen. Beautiful. Kala, my very psychic, beautiful, intelligent husband and big do you have any questions? Talk about psychics. You know, we've known each other a long time, and I don't even know how much we've talked about Kala's side and his grandfather, who was a psychic who wrote, what's it called? Great-grandfather. He wrote all his
automatic writing.
Automatic writing, it's called, and so many things.
That's what my parents, grandparents did too. Yeah. We probably all knew each other. I mean, obviously.
Oh, of course.
Our relatives, our ancestors probably knew each other, you know, on the same level.
Everyone who comes to Kirtan has been coming to Kirtan for lifetimes and lifetimes, and it's pretty incredible. Did you have a question? Because if not, I can make up another one.
Well, I mean, I'll just, I think so, but I just wanted to appreciate just hearing you talk about these things and appreciate, there's just so much in just seeing you and having both of you be in our lives and seeing you model, you know, something that in some ways is out of this world, remarkable, and in some ways is just totally ordinary, which is just living your life. You know what I mean? Like, you do your thing, we see you, and we get to see the more intimate side of you, just sort of, you know, day by day. And sometimes it's just, you know, running to the store or dropping Robbie off for whatever he's doing, or, you know, yeah. But also at the core of our relationship is coming to your home for Kirtan and going out and offering that to the world, going to Kripalu and doing that, or just going to someone's home and doing it on a smaller scale. And so there's just such a fullness that's there. So I don't know if it's a question, but I'm just sort of recognizing that, you know, what you're talking about, at least in you know, the Vedic teachings, we speak of, you know, something called an ashram. And I think one of maybe the big, it could be a really awesome thing. Like, my prayer right now in this moment is that our culture would start to broaden its conception of what ashram is, because we're conditioned to think ashram like, oh, this, you know, mystical, you know, temple somewhere in India. You know, people go there and they have to leave everything behind, and they give away all their possessions, or they're like joining a cult, or they're doing this or that. You know, it's a very removed place from the day-to-day reality. But actually, the way that the ancient yogic teachings see it is that we're all, no matter where we are, there's a best place for us to be. And for most of us, that's in a loving, committed relationship. And it's with someone, as you said, it does, you know, it could be someone that you have that higher core potentiality of doing something like having a healing essence center and doing that together, or it could just be you're very balancing to each other, and you're stabilizing, and you enhance each other, and you're just in that loving relationship. But they're both it's both an ashram.
Right.
That is
one point, Kala, is that, you know, in the Vedic culture, they call the married family couple, it's either called Griha Medi or Grihasta ashram. And Griha Medi, just that tends to mean somebody who all they want to do, not really interested in consciousness. They're just, here to enjoy life and exploit material resources, and it's not considered a very good thing. It's missing the spiritual dimension. But the Grihastha ashram means the married couple who are in an ashram, but ashram also means, one of the definitions means discipline. So as a couple, you know, it indicates that no matter what in the relationship, it requires commitment and a certain amount of discipline to be in any kind of ashram. So if you're a celibate, then that requires discipline also, and that ashram. Or if you're a sannyas, you've renounced the world, that also requires discipline. Being in a good, strong relationship requires healthy discipline, just like it requires compassion and
showing up for the other person.
Right. So it requires all that. So there was this one therapist, a very well-known therapist, of course, which I won't mention any names. And I was just having lunch with him, and he was really struggling with his partner. And he's a real spiritual guy too. And I told him that, and a light went off, because he was thinking that everything should always be groovy and easy in a marriage, that it should always like it should be the most blissful thing. And why are we having these issues?
So that's an image, right?
It was an image that they had. And I said, dude, you know, you know this, that you're in an ashram, you're in the Grihastha ashram, you're both very spiritual. Sometimes it takes work. And a light went on, and they've been married for, that was 20 years ago.
Right.
And it totally changed his perspective.
And just like this life, I mean, life, you know, people are under the assumption that we're supposed to be happy all the time on Earth. But my personal belief is, well, maybe Earth is becoming a utopian planet, but I don't think it's the last stop, and I don't think it's the ultimate place for the soul. So it's a learning platform. And yes, it can be joyful at all times if you are accepting of pain and sadness at times and waves of challenge, because that's the juice that the soul comes here to gather, kind of as a jump off point to give you a springboard to go reach toward where you really are meant to awaken to. I mean,
her sister died when she was 6 years old. Her brother died when he was not very old.
When he was mentally ill.
And family stuff. So, you know, like the challenges.
No father. I didn't grow up in any cushy life at all.
Right.
Actually, a lot of the healer and light workers on the world didn't. I mean, because we're older souls, we come in with challenges, you know. Yeah.
Right.
And it gives you compassion too to help others.
Yeah.
So I will just shift this a tiny bit, because as we're having this conversation, we have this stay at home symbol up in the corner because we didn't upgrade our Be Live in time. And we have to looking at this thing that says stay home. So
I know.
think of two things. So, you know, we've the Grihastha ashram, you know, we created for 2 years, we had a healing essence center. No, it was called Sanctuary, but it wasn't meant to be the way you guys have been able to make that work for so long. It's absolutely amazing. And what we have is the Soul Culture Yoga School, and we're doing this Soul Mapping Matrix course right now. And it's because it's happening, especially now, because we're staying home, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not to go down a road that is dangerous or that we don't want to, but let's just to spice it up a tiny bit. A lot of folks do want to hear from learned, not just scholarly, because this isn't about being scholars. This is about being tapped in, connected, and awake to pain, awake to some suffering. So maybe we could just give a little bit of a feeling about the realm of, and we would call it the realm of discovery in some ways, or we're all in this together, and we're all quote, staying home. And so there's a lot of lessons being learned. Where are you at in this moment in regards to the incredible amount of psychic pain and fear and unknown that folks are dealing with, and the awakening cycle that's happening? What would you like to shine a light on, as positive as it it all is in regards to the negativity people might be experiencing.
Okay. First thing that I know is whenever you people out there seeing this talk or listening, including myself, when we are feeling stressed, anxious, fearful, freaked out, deer in the headlights, frozen, whatever, negative, doomsday, remember first and foremost, it's not only you feeling it. You're not only feeling it because it's you. You are picking up the collective consciousness on the planet. Everyone right now is in a very same boat.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting an onslaught, a tsunami of anxiety and emotional waves in the air.
Yes.
And you're picking them up. Whether you think you're intuitive or not, whether you think you're empathic or not, you are a human being and you have the anatomy to feel what others are feeling and thinking. So that's the first thing. So right off the bat, take some deep breaths and clear yourself out by taking a hot Epsom salt bath or a shower with Epsom salts, because salts clears the electromagnetic field. This is practical stuff. Because you are also not only feeling your own angst, but you're picking up stuff. The second thing I want to say about that is checking in with your own story from your own history and your own life, depending on how much personal growth work you've done and how aware you are of your wounds and your past. For me personally, I will share that when this was a virus and a pandemic, this is like hit me where I live in my work, part of my work in this life. I don't have a spleen. We have a blood disease in our family, so we have our spleens removed, which makes us immune compromised. And my sister died in 3 days of a virus when she was 17. So that memory has been imprinted in me since I was 6. And when I went into panic at times around this pandemic for myself, my family, and oh my God, I'm going to lose my loved one, all of that hit at once, I checked in and knew that a lot of this reaction was from my inner child. And I've done a lot of work because I am a healer, practitioner, facilitator, and I had to do that work on myself. And I have to stay in check with that. So remember, your own story is also being re-triggered here. And always come back to the facts in that moment. I'm healthy right now. I'm safe right now. I don't have any uncomfortable flu-like feelings or symptoms. I have great resources. What am I doing right now to keep my body and immune system strong? So the adult comes back in and scoops up that little one who's freaking out inside you and holds him or her and says, I got this. And then you come back to center, and start with the breath. So that's the basic stuff about how to handle freak out in the moment.
Yeah.
And personally, I'm just going to say my experience of this whole situation, as you asked, the pandemic for me has been an unfolding of moments, moment to moment. I am most appreciating and enjoying staying in flow, no matter what scary theory I hear is happening, and I start to future trip or freak out or leave my body. I come back to the moment and I stay in flow. Okay, divine, Father, Mother, divine, universal consciousness, being of love and light. I am that. Be with me now. I am with you. You are with me. I'm safe and I am whole. If this body died tomorrow, I am safe and I am whole. And the bottom line is, even if we die and lose our bodies in this, we're going to be okay. And that's hard to swallow for a lot of people, because death is a big taboo in our society, in our Western culture. So that's how I walk the planet. I'm a medium, so I'm engaging with death often, or afterlife, I'll call it. And the death is very natural. So it is unnatural when you're young, and I can go off on 6 tangents. But I guess what I'm trying to say is stay connected here, guys. Here and here need to be in cohesive, coherent flow, and then up with this, with your greater connection, your truth with the divine and the benevolent, universal, loving frequency that is always all around us. Cocoon yourself in that and try to be in this moment. And there have been times I'm turning on Bewitched, I'm watching old reruns, I'm just escaping because I need to just relax and feel cozy and safe. I'm following my inner rhythms of what needs to happen. Sometimes I need to meditate, get really centered, breathe, talk to my body, check in with my immune system, give it some strength and positive light, commune with my loved ones in spirit, check in, make sure they're around me and supporting me, talk to God. Yeah, all kinds of things. And nature, while you can, get out in nature, go outside on your deck, go on a patch of grass. If you live in a condo, I don't care. Get out and look at the sky and look at the trees. And remember, this beautiful earth has endured for a very long time, and so have the souls that are on it over and over again. And you're one of those souls, and this is a passing experience. It will pass one way or the other.
Beautiful.
That's how I feel.
Beautiful. Amen.
Amen. So I'll just say a little something.
Please do.
And, when you have a family, one of the hardest things is to think about, what your family might go through if something really difficult happens. So that's there, and that's human, and that's just how it is. On the other hand, I think a lot of people, especially people who consider themselves healers and light workers, I think we know that something was going to come down in this life.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always felt that way. I mean, honestly, I used to think it was going to be California falling into the ocean, or
the earth change prophecies. Remember
the earth change prophecies, and that was going to be the thing that was going to really wake people up. But what's really interesting about this is that it's happening to everyone.
Right.
Because if it was just California falling into the ocean, the Californians would be bmed out.
Right.
But the guys from Boston would, many people might say, "Oh, that's really too bad."
Right.
But the compassion or the ability to relate to it. But this is universal. Everybody is being impacted by this. So there's a oneness consciousness being awakened in a very bizarre way, in a way that we didn't really expect it. But, Mother, Father, God's Great Spirit is very, very intelligent. And even if there are really negative beings and people who are behind some of what's happening, we also have to remember behind that, there is still intelligence happening on this planet, in this universe. And there are benevolent forces that are always here, and that we are here to participate in the next phase of what's meant to happen on this planet. So no matter what happens, the healers, the light workers, the devotees, the yogis, and many people who hadn't really gotten on the fence about all that, they're jumping on the fence, and they're jumping right over the fence right now as we speak. So a lot of people, we're calling it simultaneously. If you can read any day how hellish the timeline is going to be, and then there's the Great Awakening timeline.
Right.
And sometimes it's really hard to make sense of both. But I do know, I truly believe that there is a Great Awakening happening. And even if life becomes a bit more austere for people, that doesn't mean it's not a Great Awakening.
Right.
I mean, just because we can't enjoy as much or exploit the resources of material nature as much as we're used to,
Well, the sky's clear for the first time.
Exactly.
I know.
So
All over the world.
People are waking up, and we're here for a reason at this time.
And I
feel that way.
I had a beloved teacher that was really poignant, honey. Thank you for saying that. I had a teacher that used to say, and I believe this too, God will play the last card on this planet.
Yeah.
This is
Playing
God.
the last card. So let the dark do its thing, but we can rise and stay and hold and bob and weave and flow to that higher frequency that those that are awake already know they need to be at, and those of us that are awake that want to help others wake up, help them and support them and lift them up to be in that too, because it feels so good, first of all, when you're there and you're in it and able to hold it, and then the human part dips down sometimes, but we got to have that higher knowing faith belief that we can vibrate really high, and choose that.
And there's lots of easy ways to do that.
Yes. Everything we've done has brought us to this moment right now. Everything that anyone who's listening right now and watching this their life has brought them to be in relationship with you guys right now, with us, together in this moment to hear and remember. So,
And I just want to say one last thought about that. For anybody who thinks that, being a high vibrational frequency, talking this language is woo-woo and flaky, this is hard work.
yes.
It is not easy because we are human right now. We are embodied. We are eternal spirits, limitless with power and light and ability, energetically, whatever frequency, spirit. But when you're in matter and you are incarnated, as we all are, it is not woo-woo to stay in a high vibrational frequency of thought and kindness and compassion and faith and trust and hope. You have to, it's like lifting weights sometimes.
You have to be courageous. You have to.
Exactly. My mother used to say, "You were so brave to come to me." She said.
So
yeah, we were brave to come here at this time.
brave to come here.
Yeah,
That stay
Well,
home
that's the
sticker. We're not.
All humanity was brave.
Well, that's, I mean, what you're talking about is, the difference between someone who uses that talk in order to bypass, facing reality, and someone that chooses to show up and face reality while simultaneously holding on to those and striving always to embody those higher potentialities and qualities. And always, and even though if we don't know what is the best course and doubt comes in, or it's hard and we're just trying to make it through, you're right. Doing that work, it is like spiritual, powerlifting, or whatever we want to call it. So I think that's a really important message and something that we're going to be seeing. I think it's going to be an explosion of people really showing up in a whole new way, in a whole new level of vibration, and appreciating that, and just allowing it to be to become the new normal,
the new self-care also,
and the new self-care.
Getting a session.
May it be so. May it be so.
Acupuncture, getting a healing, getting a massage, getting a psychic reading, going through soul mapping. All
speaking
of this.
It out. I mean, always speak.
Blood cleansing.
Yeah, right.
Moment. No, but giving of yourselves, and also not taking for yourself, coming back home to hear and saying no when you need to say no, and not staying in that rat race of becoming someone and all that ego.
What you just said is very important. Saying no right now, stamping up and being in empowerment. A lot of folks seem to stop at the pain. They think pain is bad. And I can say being in pain, exquisite pain my whole life. It's not, it's completely, the tables have been turned on everything that we thought we knew about discomfort.
Right.
And,
I just answered a little survey post that my beloved friend and colleague Kimberly Napier wrote. She put out a question, which she often does during this time. She's a speaker and one of the teachers. And she said, what are you learning? What are you doing in this time? And I said, I wish I could find it, but I said something to the effect of, here it is. I said, personally, I am continuing to accept flow. I accept my sorrows. I accept my joys. I accept my frustration. I accept my anger. I accept my blah. I don't want to do anything days. I accept the pain in my body. I accept feeling unmotivated or motivated. I'm just riding the waves of the moment. And for me, that's a blessing and a huge pressure off of myself to perform, excel, make my mark, etc. that this Western culture drives us to do if we allow it to. And frankly, I believe it is also a survival skill. Being able to stay in flow, no matter what your external circumstances are at the end of the day and at the end of your life, it's between you and the divine anyway. Not you and the government, not you and what's happening. Even if, God forbid, food is limited or something, we need to be strong in our bhakti, our connection to God.
Amen. That's a beautiful last word. Thank you, Katherine. Thank you, Jonathan.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jaishree and Calamity.
Thank you so much.
If anyone wants to be in touch with you guys, you can go to katherineglass.com. You can go to healingessencecenter.com. And we're all still working. So if you want to meet with Katherine or Jonathan, they're around, they're available.
Doing readings online. Yep. Counseling, coaching, all of it.
And we usually, when we've done 3 of these interviews, but of course this one was the best. And we usually type in some of the key points we're talking about, but we were just totally engrossed, so we didn't do that. If y'all want to leave any questions or comments, we'll greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for just being and beaming.
Mm-hmm.
And we love you, and we're grateful for you, and we're grateful for your courage and for your beauty. And we look forward to having more conversations with you.
Absolutely.
Love you too, guys. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Mwah.
Love you guys.
Love,
Talk
love,
to you guys
love.
later.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Chakshuru militam jena